So let's take a look at this other material. And again, some materials come with a lot of parameters that you can tweak, and some of them come with very few, like in this case. And these are all base materials, so they're going to have less pure parameters to work with. Okay, so now I have my iridescent car paint, which is on the disco ball. And here, for example, I have a lot more parameters to play with. For example, the color. So if I click on the color, I get this pop-up window. And up here it says sRGB. There are different um, color maps. I'm not sure how to call them, but anyway, you can pick. Um, and it's just a different way of characterizing the color. Usually just leave it at sRGB. And what it has is the hue for H down here. So you can just drag this and change the hue, or you can also just do it in this window and in this slider. S is for saturation, which you can toggle. You can also enter a precise amount there. And then V is for value. And let's make our disco ball red. So I'm gonna go down to red. I'm going to make it really saturated. And you can get some really precise things. And let's say I want my gold, or let's say I want my pyramid to be the same color. Up here, I can just copy the hex code and then go to my pyramid, click on its color, and paste it here. Or let's undo that. I can go here, click on this little eyedropper, pull it off that way. Or I can, right here, there's another little eyedropper. I can click on it and pull it off that way. Okay, so I'm gonna undo that. Let's go back to our disco ball. Now, in this case, I just left the names of the materials the way they were. To be better organized, I would rename them so I know what they are. But in this case, it's a fairly simple setup, so that's not that important. So in this particular material, you'll see that it travels with a lot more information. Again, you still have your tiling and your rotation, etc. But you also have, we already looked at the color. Um, you can change the flake size. Now, some of these are fairly obvious what they do, others they're not. I encourage you to just play around with them and see what happens. You can always do Control Z if you don't like the result of the change you made. And just play around with the parameters that that material travels with and see what happens. Um, in this case, it is influencing these channels, which is fine by me, and good enough. And let's take a look at this material to see what it comes with. Okay, so like I said, I usually don't have my uh, properties window open, and I don't even use it from the docked position. What I do is I right click, and when I right click, I get my exact same uh, s- my exact same properties. It doesn't have the label, but you'll notice it's exactly 100% the same. It's all the exact same information. And I find that easier. And again, it allows me to keep the 3D view as big as possible. And when I want it to go away, I just click on the empty space. And if I want it back, I right click and I can just go and navigate and change the color and do anything I need to do. Again, completely personal preference. There's no right way or wrong way. And in this material also comes with a bunch of interesting information that you can change and move around. Um, and that's basically how you apply materials. Let me show you quickly a smart material that we'll get into in the future. But like I said, smart materials, I'm gonna turn that one off. Smart materials are base materials with a bunch of additional things that alter it, and they travel in a folder. And so when you look in the folder, in this case, it's not that complicated. Sometimes it'll be like 10 different things. In this case, it's three. And remember, Substance Painter applies things from the bottom up. So if you want to figure out what how this smart material works, I usually turn them all off and I start from the bottom. In this case, it looks like I'm gonna click on this fill layer. I'm gonna right click to bring up its properties. It looks like this one is pretty much influencing the base color, and it's adding some shine to it. And I don't know why it has height because it doesn't really have any height information, but you know. Okay, so that's what this color is doing. This layer in this smart material folder is doing. And again, if I wanted to change the base color, I can do it by going in, going there. Click on an empty spot to make that go away. Now, let's see what this one does. It looks like it's adding some um, uh, texture uh, modeling to the texture, which is great. Now this one is both a material, and over here you see it's a mask. If you click on the mask, there is a modifier, or I call it sublayer to the mask. And if you click on that and look in, let me bring this back, I think you'll see that it's a generator, and we'll talk about the generator. But even if you don't know precisely what it is, if you click on it, you can still play with the parameters and see what happens, um, and get a different effect. And right now, this particular layer is adding a blue overlay to the base color. If I click on the, okay, it's saving. When it's saving, I advise you to stop because I have actually crashed System Painter by keeping it working when the autosave was in progress. Anyway, so if I click on this on the this layer here, not on the mask, on the actual main layer, and look at the properties there. Right now, it's layering this blue over the green, base green, but I can again change the color and add let's add a turquoise to it, right? And then again, and then let's look what this last layer is doing. It's adding these scratches. And again, I can look at the base layer, I can look at the mask and look at the modifier. I always forget, yeah, the effect, sorry, I forget what it's called. And again, even without understanding the intricacies of what that effect is, I can look at its properties and play around with them and see what happens. And if I decide actually I don't want it to have scratches, even though this particular smart material includes scratches, I can just turn it off, or I can even delete it. On lost of my materials. Just because that smart material came with scratches, it doesn't mean I have to keep them. So, um, so we have seen that start applying layers by going to your asset library and dragging either base materials, smart materials. And in either case, once you've applied it, you can then apply it to the layer stack. You can then determine exactly which part of the mesh you want it to um, be applied to. And once you're there, you can go and look at that particular material's properties and uh, play around with the parameters that that particular material travels with.